Hi there, I'm SmallAnt1 and welcome to my beginner's guide to the Super Mario Odyssey Any% Sand and Lake Kingdom route. In this video, I'll be showing you the basic path through the kingdoms, describing the movement, and explaining any tricks you may find difficult. There are timestamps in the video description if you want to skip to a particular section, but let's get started. Here's what a good beginner sand kingdom looks like, and I'll wait until after it's done to talk about it. Alright, so there's Sand Kingdom, one of the longer kingdoms, requiring you to collect 16 moons before you're able to progress. It's also a kingdom with a lot of different routing options, which you'll see soon. To start off, you'll have Mario roll down to the parasol, jump on it, dive onto the roof of the building, long jump across, and pick up your first moon. After the first moon, you wait on the rooftop for the bird, hit the bird, collect the moon, and go into the pipe. If you happen to miss the bird here, don't worry, as you can get the bird after you collect the next moon. In this room, the moon is always buried in the exact same place. Just ground pound anywhere in this region. Collect the moon and roll out. Now that Mario is back out of the pipe, if you miss the bird, you can wait for it to fly back and try again. The fastest way to get the bird in the town is actually to skip the bird initially and go straight into the pipe. Then when you come out, you can roll and triple jump up to it. If you choose to do this, then you can opt to take the fast path to the first moon, where you roll to the fountain instead of the parasol, jump up to where the first moon is, and then roll straight into the pipe. If you're just starting out though, I would recommend sticking to the route I showed first, as it is the easiest. Anyways, after getting those 3 moons, you'll have Mario roll over to this hill and ground pound the moon at the peak of it. The spot you need to ground pound here is fairly small, so it may take you a few tries to find it, and if you're having a really hard time finding the spot to ground pound, then you can take a moment to walk around and your controller will start to vibrate when you're in the correct position. After this moon, you'll have Mario roll and jump up to this ice pillar, backflip, cap jump, and dive to get the next moon. After the archway moon, throw Cappy and dive off the arch, roll for a bit, and then triple jump and cap jump over the wall into the quicksand. The fastest way across quicksand is to simply dive as fast as possible. After collecting the moon in the little tunnel, dive out and get up on this pillar with a cap jump, cap throw, wall jump, cap throw, and then dive. Getting on the pillar can be pretty tricky, so you can take an extra second to line up the jump a bit better, if you feel you need to, by doing 3 dives and a jump. Once on the pillar, have Mario backflip, cap jump, cap throw towards the wall, jump, cap throw, and dive. Like I said, this pillar jump can be a pain sometimes, so if you don't even want to touch it, then you can always go around and jump up using the stairs. After getting up to the top, destroy the glowing crate to spawn the moon, jump over to collect it, jump back, and wait for the bullet bill to spawn. There are 2 faster ways to do this section that I feel are worth mentioning. Once you get comfortable with getting up on the ice pillar, you can do something called bullet bill manipulation, where you keep the first bullet bill alive the entire time. This is done by backflipping off the pillar, doing a cap throw left, and then diving onto it. Wall jump, cap throw at the bullet bill cannon, and then dive over it. Destroy the crates as fast as possible, and then roll to the moon before the bullet bill crashes into a wall. This allows Mario to capture the bullet bill right away without having to wait. The other way to do this section is called Dram Strat. It's a little too advanced to explain in this video, so I'll probably be putting it into a different one, but it's performed by spawning a bullet bill, manipulating its movement in such a way that you can up throw, collect the moon below, and home Cappy onto the bullet bill to warp up instantly. This strat will be very challenging to do consistently as a beginner, so I would not recommend it. But regardless of how you will be collecting these 2 moons, once you've captured the bullet bill, use the motion controls to boost the bill over to this lonely pillar, jump out of the bullet bill before you crash into it, cap throw, and dive to collect the moon. Cap throw and dive down to the left, and roll over to this luggage moon. Ground pound, get the moon, dive, and then roll over to the Sphinx. Talk to the Sphinx, and mash A through all the text, and then roll into the treasure room. If you've watched some top-level runners, you'll likely have seen them jump on the back of the Sphinx and instant roll cancel to clip through the wall here. This is only possible on older versions of the game, which you'll probably don't have as a beginner, and is one of the most difficult things to perform in the entirety of the any percent run. It also only saves 8 seconds if done absolutely perfectly, so don't worry about it. It's not worth learning until you are very, very good. In the Sphinx room, get the moon and collect some coins. Since you're just starting out, I would recommend collecting most of the coins in this room, as you are bound to die a few times in the run, and you don't want to find yourself short on coins when buying the 2 moons further into the run. After a few runs, if you find that you don't need the extra coins, then you can opt to get only one of the piles. Once you leave the treasure room, triple jump, cap throw, dive, and then jump and sink into the quicksand, walking into the hidden hole in the wall. Once Mario's head slips under, continue walking forwards and mash the jump button. Get the moon, roll into the pipe, then dive over to the big stairs, backflip and dive up them, then roll down to the bullet bill. Capture it, smash it into the stone to get a moon, roll back, capture another one, and get the moon on the pillar. This next part is called Jaxi Skip. To do this, let the bullet bill crash into the wall on this patterned section. Do not leave the bullet bill. Crash into the wall and let it force you out automatically. This makes it much easier. When popping out of the bullet bill, continue to go towards the wall, and when Mario begins to wall slide, do a wall jump. At the peak of the wall jump, do a cap throw and dive. This may take a bit of practice to get consistent, and it will kill Mario if you mess it up, so if you're not confident with this strat, then you can choose to get the checkpoint before the bullet bills in case you do die to respawn and try again. Once on top of Jaxi Ruins, get the moon in the chest and open the other chest with Cappy to get some extra coins. Then just cap jump and dive down. Roll over to the cactus, capture it, move it a bit, and then ground pound to get the moon. If you want to dive over the cactus like I do here, then after leaving the cactus, ground pound, center the camera, jump, and then at the peak of that jump, start another ground pound. Then after the moon animation, you can just dive over it. If not, then just simply walk around and start the roll. Roll up the hill to the small sand pile with the birds and ground pound, collect the moon, and now you can warp to the Odyssey to finish. Something important here is, if you are fast enough getting from the Sphinx to the Oasis, then the bird from the town will happen to be here. If you're confident that you can consistently get to the Oasis while the bird is still flying around here, then you can skip the bird when it's in the town and just get it here instead. If you try this strategy but miss the bird, then there is another relatively fast moon up on a tree. Just collect the notes and get the moon. With the moon here though, it's faster to roll to the Odyssey as opposed to warping to it, so roll instead. Something I nearly forgot to mention here is that if any checkpoints are activated during the kingdom, then when attempting to warp, some text will pop up that wastes a small amount of time. So if you don't need any checkpoints, then be sure not to accidentally activate them. That pretty much covers everything that I can think of in Sand. I did talk about a bunch of options, so here's a quick summary of the 5 variations of the Sand route that you can use to progress through as you get better. Each variation is a little bit faster than the previous. For the first variation, you'll be getting the rooftop moon with the parasol, then the bird, and then enter the pipe, and at the end of the kingdom, you can get the ground pound moon and warp to the Odyssey. The second variation, you will get the rooftop moon with the fountain, go into the pipe, get the moon, leave the pipe, and then get the bird moon. At the end of the kingdom, you get the ground pound moon and warp to the Odyssey. The third variation, you'll get the first moon via the fountain, enter and leave the pipe, and skip the bird for now. Then at the end of the kingdom, get the ground pound moon, get the bird moon, and then warp to the Odyssey. The fourth variation is a bit different than the others. You will get the first moon with the fountain, enter and exit the pipe, and get the bird moon. Skip the Sphinx entirely and go straight to the Flowing Sands room. Then, at the end of the kingdom, get the ground pound moon, then go to the notes, and roll to the Odyssey. You need to get the bird at the beginning in this variation, since Mario never enters the loading zone for the treasure room right after the Sphinx, which resets the bird cycle. This fourth variation is the fastest one in versions 1.2 and up, which is the version I'm assuming you have. This fourth route gives significantly less coins, so you will have to be diligent for the rest of the run to ensure you have enough coins to purchase the 2 moons when you get to that point. The fifth variation is only possible on versions 1.0 and 1.1. It's the same as variation 3, but with Sphinx Clip. That's all for Sand Kingdom. It has a bunch of relatively difficult parts with the ice pillars, bullet bill manipulating, Jaxi Skip, among other things. Don't be too hard on yourself if you have a tough time with some or all of these things. They just take practice and will become consistent with time. Now we'll move on to the next section, Lake Kingdom. Alright, so there's Lake Kingdom. It's very straightforward, and there isn't too much to explain. To start off, you'll have Mario roll over to the first moon and ground pound it. After the ground pound, before you get the moon, throw out Cappy and hold him there, get the moon, then walk into Cappy to do a vault, then cap jump and dive to get onto the higher section. If your jump is a little bit off, and you recognize that you won't be able to make it up, then you can do a wall jump to save it. If you find the vault too difficult, then a triple jump after the moon works just fine as well. Roll past the Goombas, jump and cap jump, then capture the zipper. After the zipper, roll down the opening to get the second moon, then cap throw, dive, and dive again into the water to capture the Cheep Cheep. To boost with the Cheep Cheep, press B and Y at the same time. This gets the Cheep Cheep to max speed. If a Cheep Cheep is at max speed, then a boost does nothing to its speed, so any boost after the first isn't necessary. I'm using the extra boosts here to help myself with the timing for moving the fish around. After the moon in the small hole, get the moon on Dory's back and swim down to the pillar. Use a motion control shake on top of the pillar to spawn the moon and swim down to get it. For some reason, during the cutscene with this moon in particular, you're able to move the camera around, so take this opportunity to point the camera upwards. Once the fish starts swimming, go up. I like to time this jump by doing 4 boosts upwards, moving forward slightly, and going straight up to jump out of the water. Once out of the water, leave the cheap, and then once Mario grabs the wall, do a wall jump, cap throw at the flower, and then dive into it. Something odd I've noticed about this part is that if you happen to hit the Goombas, then sometimes your dive input will be dropped. If you do hit the Goombas with Cappy, make sure to do the dive input multiple times to ensure the input is registered. You've probably seen people do this cheap jump without the wall jump, and it's a bit harder. Basically, before the jump, you level out the cheap on the surface of the water, and then when it jumps out, it will get some extra height. After hitting the flower, cap throw, and roll into the Rango Fight. Rango is one of the trickier Broodals, but there is a strategy that makes this fight pretty easy. Start with the triple jump, and dive right onto its head. For the next cycle, crouch just inside of the coin ring, facing away from Rango, and right as the spikes pop out of his hat, do a backflip onto it. At the peak of the bounce from the jump from Rango's hat, do a ground pound through him, then jump, and at the peak of the jump, do a cap throw to stall in the air. Rango should raise his head into Mario's feet and take a hit. Then, it's just a matter of repeating that one more time. Backflip onto his hat, ground pound, jump, and cap throw. After the fight, there is one last thing. During the end of the multi-moon cutscene, mash the cap throw button, and once you hear Cappy being thrown out, then dive onto it. This is the fastest way to get this multi-moon. After the multi-moon, the kingdom's finished. Multi-moon will bring Mario back to the Odyssey, and all you have to do is throw Cappy at the globe. That's the end of the guide for these 2 kingdoms. If I forgot any details, or if you have any helpful tips, feel free to leave them in the comments below. They're much appreciated. But thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm SmallAnt1, and I'll see you next time.